Hey everyone, namaste. How are you all doing? And today we're going to be going through the star weather advisory that is going on right now. It's January 20th. And I was really feeling it. So I thought I wasn't going to post this. There's so many other astrologers who's already gone through this conjunction. But as I was feeling it and researching into it, I realized that it has particular significance for us in the West Coast in the Pacific time zone. So I thought I would do a post anyways, but just, oh my gosh, personally for me, with this Pluto-Sun conjunction, I've been the receiver of a lot of bad news, and I have been the giver of a lot of bad news as well, just within the last couple of days. So it's definitely been interesting. Um, so I'll just go through the material. This is already on the blog. So feel free to read through, but I've been feeling this energy so keenly. So um, just really want to share my experience and what I know about this series of Pluto transit, because it's not only the Pluto-Sun conjunction, but the Pluto-Sun conjunction for for the last 5 years, and also the last bit of Pluto retrograde from Aquarius back into Capricorn, and then going forward into um, Aquarius again for this entire year. And it's just going through the last degrees of Capricorn, which is just a very sensitive spot, likely for all of us. But I'm just going to go through this material a little bit. So as of today, right now, I'm recording on January 20th in the morning. So earlier this morning, 5:45 a.m., Sun will have conjunct Pluto already at 29 degrees, 59 minutes in Capricorn. And it's just 1 minute away from Aquarius. So the Sun and Pluto are together in like the last bit of Capricorn. And then today, January 20th, even if you're watching this way later in the year, this would still apply because the same energy carries through the Pluto transits that are going to be with us until around Thanksgiving time, 2024. I would argue goes further, but the bulk of it is up to Thanksgiving. So this afternoon, Pluto enters into Aquarius at 0 degrees. And I feel like the tension is going to release a little bit more, but I would say, starting, I don't know, January 15th to January 20th, if you think back to what happened this week, chances are there's some things that are underneath the surface where are starting to rumble, or they're starting to become disturbed, stirred up, where you get a sense that something's gonna come to its head. It's gonna come out. It's sort of like popping the pimple, the pus is, you just could feel it. It's about to come out. It's about to come out. And then it does, either, it comes out or somebody else is making it come out. It's for my own experience. It's both. It's both. I've had endings in when it comes to the work sector, and me giving others endings in the work sector, and actually personal as well. So it's really those sort of interesting times where you see that soup swirling around, the soup of change swirling around, and you don't quite know what is going to come up, but the energy just makes it so vulnerable, like with the same endings. If it were any other times under any other star alignments, we wouldn't feel it as much, if that makes sense. But because of this particular alignment or planetary position of Pluto being in sort of the last degrees of Capricorn, we're feeling it very keenly and very particularly for some reason. Like the event and our reactions would be disproportionate. So I'm calling this the start of the Skele-Grow Max experience until after November 19th, 2024, when Pluto leaves Capricorn and enters Aquarius for the last time in our lifetime. So starting with the Pluto-Sun Conjunction today, the conjunction itself is not particularly rare. It happens once a year, with the sun goes around the chart every single year. So, if Pluto's moving very, very slowly, and the sun comes around every year, it's going to meet Pluto every single year. So, then why is this conjunction so special? Because, if it happens every single year, then we shouldn't feel it this much, this deeply. So it turns out for the last 5 years, the Pluto-Sun conjunction has been happening in the first house in the Pacific West Coast time zone. And again, that's California, if I understand it correctly, parts of Idaho, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, Western Canada, Western Mexico. So anywhere within the Pacific West Coast time zone. So this means, with the Pluto-Sun conjunction happening in the first house for the past 5 years, as a collective, we have been going through a gradual personal identity death and transformation that spans over 5 years, because it happens in the collective first house, where it's about the self. It's about the initial realization that we are separate from another. It's about, this is who I am. So just to give you an idea in graphics, I know it's really hard to see. If you click in, then you can see the bigger graphics. So this is 2019, left to right, 19, 20, 21, and then on the bottom, 22, 23, and 24. So if you can see in 2019, the conjunction happened in the second house for us, where sort of how we were, our values were undergoing change. Our sense of how we get our resources, where we get our income, is coming into was going into destabilization. But I actually think Pluto and Sun in conjunction in the second house is not necessarily bad, because it could actually denote windfalls, or sort of an influx, an inflow of investment resources, investment money. This is like, you could hit oil, gold, you could hit jackpot with this. So, 2019, we're not really feeling it. And then starting 2020, you can see the Pluto-Sun conjunction from then on continues to conjunct in the first house. So 2020, Pluto-Sun conjunct first house. 2021, Pluto-Sun conjunct in the first house. 2022, Pluto-Sun conjunct in the first house. 2023, Pluto-Sun conjunct in the first house. And this year, 2024, is going to be the last year that Pluto and Sun conjunct in the first house. The next one is going to be 2036, so 12 years away. but we're not going to have this conjunction in the first house, and not in this intensity. I can't say I've done exhaustive research in terms of if this repeat is going to happen within our lifetimes. But so far, when I rewind a couple of years and fast forward a couple of years, they conjunct in different houses from here on out for a couple of years, at least up to 2036. I know that from this year to 2036, Pluto-Sun will conjunct in different houses. It's just during the COVID years, isn't that interesting? They consistently conjunct in the first house, where our sense of self, who we are, our identity, because they conjunct in Capricorn, our identity in society and what we do to make our names known, what we do for our legacy is coming into question, has been dismantled, has been disrupted, disturbed. It's like, throwing an atom bomb on our self identity, and like we're dealing with the aftermath. We don't know what it is anymore. So again, notice 2020 to 24, the conjunction happens consistently in the first house, meaning our personal and collective identities have been dying for the past 5 years. So sorry, I'm repeating myself, but I think it's great to review this. The structures of who we think we are have been dismantling very slowly and consistently. And in Capricorn, it's like breaking and removing our bones one by one, loosening the structural integrity of the self until we can no longer sustain our old personalities and identities and outdated societal functions. So that's why I called it Skele-Grow Max, because it's like when Harry Potter broke his bone in a Quidditch match and Professor Lockhart performed a faulty spell. So instead of mending the bone, he actually removed the entire bone from Harry Potter's arm and leaving the arm limp. So if we repeat that for all the major bones in the body and do it over a period of 5 years, we end up where we are now, sort of in a limbo, and having all of our old critical structural support removed. And now, it's not done yet, because we're down to that last couple of minor bone removals, and we begin to drink the Skele-Grow. And the thing is, it's not like, oh, the bones are completely removed and then we start drinking the Skele-Grow. It's as we are removing the bones, we drink a little bit of Skele-Grow, we remove the bones, drink a little bit of Skele-Grow. They're happening in conjunction, and it's like stop and go. Both are stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. So that's why as we begin to regrow the bones, it still feels painful, because it's happening very slowly over a long stretch of time. And we're not growing the old set of structural support. We're not going back to where we were. We're growing a new set of support that's going to be able to channel the transpersonal consciousness, Saturn in Pisces, to the physical world. So I know transpersonal consciousness, like what the hell is that? And I'm telling you, I don't know what that is. It just means that we're ready for the next stage, the next evolution of consciousness, the next frequency, next level of frequency is coming in. And in order for that to come in, we've had to dismantle all of our egoic personal self structures in order to receive what is new. It sounds almost a little too spiritual, esoteric. It's not. We're definitely not speaking practical terms, because Saturn in Pisces really isn't that practical, but it is in relating to being able to receive the transpersonal broadcast, the consciousness broadcast that is coming in order for us to evolve to a new level. So our old structures are being have been deconstructing over the last 5 years. So with Pluto retrograding back and forth between Aquarius and Capricorn 2024, it's saying a very similar thing. So what Pluto's going to do is, now that it's in Aquarius, it's going to retrograde back through the first degrees of Aquarius and then back into Capricorn. And then it's going to go forward again through Capricorn and ingress into Aquarius again for the last time in our lifetime. So starting with, again, the ingress that's going to happen today, January 20th. Chances are it's already happened if anybody watches this. It happens 4:56 p.m. Again, this is Pacific Standard Time. We are seeing the need for new relational paradigms because for that chart, for all of us in the Pacific West Coast, again, it's just PST, Pluto ingress into Aquarius in the 7th house. So because we've shifted in our personal identity, as we mentioned before, the Pluto-Sun just kept happening in the 1st house for all of us. Yeah, because we've shifted in our personal identities. Of course, our relational paradigms are also going to have to shift as well. They can't stay the same. So this is happening in personal business relationships and really anywhere we need to be relational, especially with Aquarius. It's like how we relate to our entire environment. And how do we relate in a sense where we can still feel that a sense of personal safety without infringing on our personal safety, but we want to shift how we relate to the greater world, how we relate to each other. So this can have a really, really broad application, as well as the more intimate ones, the actual one-on-one with our intimate partners, or one-on-one with, I want to say even our family members, because Aquarius just means it's anyone. It's anyone that we come into contact with. And it doesn't even have to be intimate contact. It could be on a broader scale, loose contact. So just notice that. And because Pluto will go retrograde again on May 2nd, 2024, it's going to start to go back into Capricorn, but it would still be in Aquarius on May 2nd. It's going to back into Capricorn September 1st, 2024 in the 1st house. There are small details of the old paradigms that continues to be dismantled. So especially when it backs into Capricorn, this is a projection. It's going to feel like another bone being pulled from our old system, another structural piece removed from our system before we drink the Skele-Grow again as Pluto goes direct again. let me see, Pluto goes direct. Yeah, October 11th Pluto goes direct. So we're going to continue to make adjustments to our personal identity. And naturally, because we're making adjustments to personal identities, our relational identities will remain in flux. And so this is where Pluto will go direct. Excuse me, I'm going to have a little bit of coffee. So Pluto stations direct again at that last degree of Capricorn, 29 degrees. It doesn't even go beyond the last degree of Capricorn. So it's almost like our last little bit of structural integrity, security, again, is going to be removed. And after that, we're going to start drinking Skele-Grow and start growing new structures, new bones. But I would say that would happen a little more after after Pluto goes forward into Aquarius near Thanksgiving. Before that, I would say it's feeling the deboning and maybe suffering through it a little bit. So yeah, so Pluto goes forward again, October 11th in Capricorn. That's this one right there. Then on November 19th, Pluto enters Aquarius and will not return to Capricorn for the rest of our lifetime. The final ingress into Aquarius happens in the 12th house. It's right there. And with 12th house Lord, Saturn in the first house right there, we're looking to establish a new level of foundational morality and discipline path to developing a new paradigm. So it's not about having our new personal and collective identity set in stone, but having agreements on basic ethics and preliminary ground rules to be able to develop further our new identities, either our personal singular identity or as a collective. So this Saturn is asking us to look into our systems of morality. You know, Saturn is rules and regulations. And when Saturn is in Pisces, one interpretation is channeling rules and regulations from the transpersonal consciousness. So what was old, you know, the old Capricornian, the Capricornian flavor, how should I describe it? Like the old school, the conservative rules and regulations are now being, again, just being deconstructed, being blown away, blown open, so that a new set of rules and regulations can come through directly from the super consciousness, the collective consciousness. I can also put it that way. Or it's just the transpersonal consciousness, you know, where we are heralding a new age for the human species under the age of Aquarius. So something like that. And for us personally, it's just asking us to look at our personal values, our personal ethics, our personal morality, moral lines, where we draw the lines. Like beyond this, it's immoral, you know, and within this boundary, it's still okay, it's still ethical. So we're now given the push, the impetus to look at that line, where we draw that line, because we need to set that line, reset that line in order, again, to receive that new identity that's been blown wide open right now, to develop. I don't even want to say set. There's no setting for this short time frame, but in order to keep on developing it, we have to set new ethical foundations, moral foundations. Okay, so an example of questions that help to establish a new personal morality would be, is releasing the physical and injecting our consciousness into AI moral? Again, we're now looking into, where do we shift that line of morality in order to receive our own a new sense of personal identity, which again connects to how we become relational to others. It shifts how we relate to others. So also, what about human and AI relationship? Are we okay with that? Is it okay to not procreate? Is it moral? We're down to that ethical line, that the rules and regulations. Is it legal? Can we encourage that? This really pushes us into the zone of matrix. I mean, it's where we're moving towards. These are the questions that are real right now. And we may not experience our personal lives on that scale, but these questions are in alignment with the flavors of what these planetary positions are telling us, of what the energy is moving towards, is for us to just naturally start asking these questions. Where is the line of morality? Because we need to reset it. And again, it may not be on the scale that we experience personally with these Pluto transits, but it is asking us to consider, what new identities are we looking forward to becoming, and what old ethics and morality will need to be broken in order for us to move towards a new outlook for ourselves. So again, we're leaving sort of the January 20th Pluto-Sun Conjunction, and we're now talking about this transit of Pluto going to Aquarius, retrograding back to Capricorn, and again moving forward into Aquarius. We are establishing a new personal identity, a relational identity. And for that to happen, we have to set a new line of morality and ethics for ourselves. Because without breaking new grounds in terms of what we can and cannot accept, of what it means to be ethical and what isn't ethical, we cannot move forward to that new level of self-identity and relational identity. So I just wanted to give an example that's already in play, very obvious example: the Vatican approving the blessing of same-sex couples. So I have a link to their declaration. You can click in, and they do draw the line at legitimizing giving sacrament to same-sex marriage, and that's for now. They're okay. They're starting to see that, or how does Pope Francis put it? It's like God does not deny blessings, or something like that, where God is generous, magnanimous, that he blesses all his children, something along those lines, where blessings are given freely. But in terms of legitimizing, the Vatican isn't ready for that. And, but they have definitely moved that line of rules and regulations, even though they're saying that they're not giving any more pull or more margin to formally legitimizing same-sex marriage. But in my view, they have blurred the lines considerably. So they're saying that they're not really shifting the line, and I'll give it to them that they're just sort of blurring the lines, but I see that eventually the lines will need to be need to be shifted more formally. But that's, that's my little projection here. I don't know what's actually going to happen. But the movement to remove old structures in order to have a new organizational and relational outlook is there with the Vatican, because they're looking for a new organizational identity in order to have a better relational outlook, a better relational identity with this new age. And as people also start to develop new identities, again, my projection is Vatican will have to keep moving that line of morality and ethics a little more in order to um I don't want to say to attract um more congregation. It's not like I'm saying they did this for marketing, but I'm saying that they need to do this for marketing in order to uh sort of attract the next generation. I'm just going to put it in very blunt terms. In order to uh, sort of tend the flock, that's gonna become the new generation of flock. The old flock, dying out. I too will die. It's the new flock is coming in, and it's a different way of tending to that flock. So anywho, so project that onto our personal lives, where that last few degrees of Capricorn and the first few degrees of Aquarius fall, and we have an idea of where the Skele-Grow is in effect for our greatest good. So just as a personal example, this Pluto right now is in my third house, and with Sun and Pluto conjunct in my third house and going back and forth Aquarius and Capricorn, I find myself just needing to do what's been really tough for me is to set boundaries, to be able to, communicate bad news to other people, communicate what I want to other people, communicate in a new way where I have never communicated before. It's like right now doing I've never communicated this way before, but it's like I have been pushed to do this. It's almost like I've no other choice. I have to move that line of morality, where before it's like I don't want to piss people off. I don't want people to, if I'm delivering bad news, setting my boundaries, it's like, but I don't want to piss people off. Having Moon in Libra, I want to be nice. I want to be accommodating. I don't want to be the reason why somebody else is suffering. It hurts me when I see other people suffering. And I've just had to blur and then remove that line of sort of morality and ethics for myself and say, no, in order for me to slip into that new identity of being able to be an effective communicator, even effective leader, I need to be able to say no and set those boundaries. And I've had to swallow that pill many, many times and set those boundaries. Well, it's like, I feel bad, but I need to set boundaries. And and also to allow others to receive the clues, the hint when others set their boundaries and tell me, this is not how it's going to go. Then, I respect that too. I don't take it, like, my lesson is to not take it personally anymore. So that's been my Pluto in the third house transit, where I've had to learn a new way of communication. And before even going there, I really had to just erase the lines that somehow my conditioning, um, my upbringing, uh, sort of societal values have taught me to be nice. As a girl, I'm supposed to be nice. I'm supposed to be accommodating. I'm supposed to just uh, not have my say. When it's not that as long as my say, what I've been taught was, as long as my say doesn't piss off other people, then it's fine. And that's with Pluto Sun going over my third house, for the last 5 years, that is just blown out of the water. That's just, that old identity cannot exist anymore. And that's why I have to be here to practice just spitting out what I know, spitting out my own truth. And, that is for my greatest good. So that's my example, not to dwell on it. But it's hard. The Skele-Grow experience continues. I still feel it when I see that, oh, by setting my boundaries, it's, I'm making somebody else suffer. Either it's family member, either it's friends, either it's people at work. It's a whole bunch. Even if it's just, sharing what I love, which is, what I'm doing right now, there's a sense that I'm going to be I'm going to be pissing some people off by doing this. I am, again, Skele-growing through it. There's pain. And, as I said in the 2024 forecast video, I myself am tapping through it and processing the pain as I go. So anywho, so hard, challenging, and unavoidable structural changes that feel like a deboning continues until Pluto formally enters Aquarius November 19th, 2024. So again, this Skele-Grow experience continues, and not only Skele-Grow, but deboning experience continues until Pluto enters Aquarius for the last time on November 19th. And then, in my estimation, we still have a bit of Skele-Grow left to go until Saturn enters Aries formally on February 13th, 2026. And another indicator, I forgot to put it on here, is Uranus leaves Taurus and goes into Gemini around May 2026. It's still going to go back and forth a little bit. I forgot exactly the dates. It's going to retrograde back to Taurus and then go forward in Gemini. I think at least once, don't quote me on it. But around that same time, Uranus is going to enter Gemini, which is so much more comfortable for Uranus, because Uranus and Taurus has been about revolutionizing, shifting how we gain our resources. And not only that, but shifting our personal values, shifting what we hold dear, what is valuable to us, even to a level of sort of our purpose in life. It's just, Taurus has so many meanings. It's personal values, but also a sense of foundational nourishment. It literally is the food that we put on the table. It's the food that sustains us physically. It's the love that sustains us physically. It's all of the above. So, you know, that has come into destabilization ever since Uranus went into Taurus. So this sense of being wobbly in our sense of self is still going to continue until Uranus goes into Gemini, where it can soar, finally ascend and soar a little bit more. It can start to communicate our newfound selves in completely new ways. Like, it's one of those things, I'm just going to say it, it's the energy of Uranus and Gemini. It's almost like we invent a device where we're able to put it on and then communicate with each other telepathically. That's what that energy feels like. But the foundation, once Uranus and Gemini, Uranus goes into Gemini 2026, at least our sense of self would be a little more concretized. We would feel a little more stable. And having established our ethical line, our ethical boundaries, and thereby being able to shift our personal identities, shift our roles in society, our societal functions, and thereby shift how we relate to each other. And then the next thing naturally is to be able to shift in new ways, or being able to shift how we communicate completely. And, new technologies will happen where we are going to be communicating in a completely just outrageous new ways, which I don't know what it is. But again, until then, there's still going to be sort of little Skele-Grow moments where we're still slipping into our new selves, again, especially in the West Coast time zone, Pacific PST time zone. So a reminder that we are in a year of compassion. It's absolutely hasn't been easy. Again, it's trigger happy. What happens and how we react would often be disproportionate. So please be gentle and kind towards yourself and others, and ask for help when you need it. And again, the key being that, ask the right person. If you need medical help, don't go to a psychologist. If you need mental help, don't go to, I don't know, a podiatrist. It's on that level. And if you need someone to go deep with, don't go to your drinking friend. Or if they overlap, fine. Your drinking friend is also someone who can go deep with you. That's great. But if you need something deep, right, you go to the friend where you could go deep with, and it needs to be mutual. If it's not mutual, if that mutual space hasn't been established, don't do it. Don't throw your vulnerability out, only for somebody else to shut it down. So find the right circumstance, find the right help, and then ask for help. And if you see someone in need, especially a couple of days around today and around February 21st, you can see the previous post on sort of the vulnerability advisory on February 21st. Offer help only where you can, only where you're able to establish that line for yourself. And it's really interesting. That line is shifting for all of us in all sorts of different ways. I mean, if it can shift for the Vatican, obviously we're all shifting. So so that's pretty much it for this transit. Just sort of to recap. Um, again, just start noticing where we are shifting in our personal identities, and how, because we're shifting in personal identities, we are also shifting in the relational identity. And especially in the West Coast, because this Pluto Sun has been conjuncting in the first house for the last 5 years. The first seventh axes just have been in play for such a long time. That's why, even if this is the collective house placement, this is not going to be a personal placement unless your ascendant is in Capricorn. More likely, for the rest of us, a lot of us, this is not going to be your natal placement. Like my natal placement, not natal, but anyway, I'll just call it my placement, is in the third house. So, it's going to take a different twinge, a different flavor and interpretation. But regardless, it's going to be our self-identity and how we relate to others. Doesn't matter what flavor it takes in terms of your personal chart, either the Pluto Sun or the last degrees of Capricorn falls in second, third, fourth, 10th, 11th house, doesn't really matter. There's always that sense of we're shifting and playing. We're blowing old paradigms out in terms of the self versus the other, self-identity and relational identity. It's not versus, it's actually both shifting. So just notice that in this, even though I titled it for the Pluto Sun transit today, but the shift in our identities, shift in relational identities, is going to stretch on for, I would say, the entire year. So I guess the advisory part is to just be patient and be gentle. Again, be gentle and kind with each other, because we're going through growing pains, the Skele-growing pains. And I know I mentioned in 2024 forecast that sort of our the aggression of 2023 is going to subside a little bit, because in 2023, I remember very clearly, I saw that Mars in the ascendant, and I'm like, wow, we're going to be up in each other's faces this year. And this year, 2024, we're a little softer, but then with that softness, with that Cancerian softness, just so much more sensitive and vulnerable. And when Cancer gets triggered, it attacks. So even though we're not in that aggressive mode 24/7 anymore, we're not up in people's faces anymore. The possibilities for feeling triggered sort of either hasn't subsided, or it actually increases this year. And with Pluto, let me just see. Let me go back to the 2024 January chart. Yeah, see, with Mars coming to meet with Pluto soon, near February. I mentioned this in the February 21st advisory. The possibility of war, either on the world stage or within our personal arenas, can very well happen, not because we're up in each other's faces this year, but because we are just that much more sensitive this year, because, you know, we don't have our structural integrity yet. And without sort of that feeling of strong support, we feel a little more vulnerable and defensive. With Cancer is defense. When I have to look at a country's defense, I look at Cancer. You would think military, wait a minute, military, you look at Aries, you look at Mars, but no, it's when I look at, you know, a country's defense and I look at the country's chart, I also look at Cancer. That's homeland security. So Mars is offense and Cancer is defense. It's all, you know, it's all defense. It's all security. So with Cancer, there's a huge sort of a huge vulnerability in being triggered defensively. And that could lead to external war, internal war, either way. So again, I feel like I'm repeating myself. It bears repeating, is to just be really kind with yourself and allow. With Cancer, unfortunately, you just have to let the emotions out in a safe space. Let it out in a safe space. Find that safe space for yourself. That's going to be the best way to go. So I know that wasn't much of a summary, but I hope you got the point. Be gentle and kind towards yourself and others during these Skele-growing times. Just the last bit of disclaimer. I know I talked about my own intention of not wanting to trigger fear or stay on the fearful side for these advisories. Especially when we exclusively focus on a negative. If we zone in our consciousness there for a prolonged time, we could get really sucked in and become fearful. And so I want to put out the reminder that that's not my intention. My intention for these advisories is hopefully to relieve our anxiety, even shame and guilt, if or these emotions can come up when we are experiencing challenges during these transits. And for some of you who are into awareness practice, maybe you don't, maybe you're able to just, you know, sit through the storm in tranquility. And that's great. And also, if you're just having a great time in life right now and flowing with life, and you're safe and healthy and feeling just your best, having a blast with everyone, then honor that and release this article. Then this article is, you know, this content is not for you. So just my point is honor where you are right now. And if you're feeling good, you happen to just see this material and you know somebody who's maybe not doing so well, then maybe refer them to this post. But otherwise, you know, it's point being, don't go looking for trouble if your life is great and you're doing well and you're having fun. Only like take this as just sort of a cold medicine. If you're having the coughs, if you're feeling not so great, then use it as, you know, cough suppressant. You know, use the material here as cough suppressant, something like that. So anywho, I'm going to stop right there. I hope that was helpful, and best of luck to you and to all of us. May we all be happy and healthy, and most of all, be kind and gentle to ourselves. So thank you so much. I'm going to close right there. Namaste.